Film equipment is getting cheaper and cheaper, which is wonderful. It used to be that you couldn't buy a good quality microphone for filmmaking for less than $1,000, or a nice lens for several thousands of dollars. But now you've got companies like Godox, Newer, Aperture, all of these really great brands that are supporting us as creative individuals, and they're helping us to be just better suited by giving us the right tools. However, they're not always the best tools. They're not always the right tools. And honestly, sometimes I'm a little disappointed with my options. Not to say that the options aren't good, they're great. It's just that sometimes you can't always buy things that you need. So in this video, I want to cover my favorite DIY video gear, my favorite filmmaking gear that I have built. Number one is this. This is a charging station. I built this out of a sheet of plywood and I stuck on all my chargers so it's nicely organized. I did all kinds of cable management so I'm not looking and hunting for specific cables. I get so tired of losing track of my specific charging cords. So this way I know exactly where it is. It's very tempting sometimes if you have a specific spot for a specific cable and you need something like charging your phone or charging your tablet to just take, one cable, one charger and think, oh, it's gonna be fine. And then you lose that charger or leave it in your car or something like that. And then you don't have it for charging your batteries. I was doing this constantly and I got really annoyed with it. So I built a solution for this that meets my needs really nicely. And what's really great about this setup is that if I'm only needing one charger with me, if I'm say needing to bring a light to a specific shoot and I'm not bringing all of my other cameras and all my other gear and I don't need to bring this charger and that charger, I'm very easily able to, as you saw, take these chargers off because they're attached with Velcro. And this is very strong Velcro. And it sticks on in place and I can shake this thing around and none of the chargers fall off. And that's really great. I love having this feature and I love having all of these sort of chargers and cables organized very properly. And it's really affordable too. I mean, I had to spend a little bit of money to, pay for the Velcro and this sheet of plywood. And then I painted it and stuck on the Velcro in approximately where I wanted the chargers to go. And then I organized all the cables. It's really simple and something I really recommend everyone look into building for themselves because this has saved me so much headache. It's saved me so much time. And it's really just something that is a convenience having this on set. Number two on this list is sound panels. Now I've built hundreds of sound panels and that's no joke. And they're really simple. Now, the reason you want to install sound panels in your studio is to be able to take care of any reverberance. If I didn't have these panels on the walls and on the ceiling, you would hear my voice echoing and saying the same thing about 7 different times because your voice bounces off all different surfaces and it comes back into the microphone, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. But by building sound panels, you get to really treat the room acoustically and help it to improve and just sound better. All you need to do is build a frame, whatever size or shape you want to make. You stuff it with an insulation of some sort. A lot of people recommend using rock wool. Afterwards, you're going to take a very breathable, very thin fabric and stretch it across the entire frame and staple it down so that the frame looks nice and so that the front panel looks nice. You don't have all these wrinkles. And that's it. Super effective, super simple way of treating the acoustics in your room. And what I think is quite cost effective as well. You can build one of these sound panels for about $20. That is a lot cheaper than a lot of these other sound panels that I'm seeing on the market that cost about $100. So this is a route that I really recommend a lot of people try. Or if you're a local, you can always buy them from me. That works too. Number 3 is grip clamps. If you take a look throughout the studio, you're gonna see these grip clamps all over the place. Right here, I have this monitor that's being held by a grip clamp. You've got a grip clamp holding up this light over here. You have a grip clamp on that light. You have a grip clamp on this microphone and on this recorder. It's really an effective way of placing your lights and placing your equipment in specific ways that you want to. And you can buy these grip clamps already pre-built by companies like Impact or Matthew Studios, but I just recommend going out and buying some simple A-clamps or spring clamps from the hardware store. You can buy these for about $2 a pop, and usually they already have some holes that are drilled in there. And then just place a bolt or a simple 1/4-20 screw and screw down a simple baby pin or a ball head. Those work great too. And then you're done. And that's it. It's really that simple, and I don't really understand why people go out and spend like 40 bucks on one of these clamps when they can just build one themselves for, let me see, $4.80. You can really do anything with these clamps as long as the gear isn't too heavy. Like, I wouldn't really want to hold up my huge softbox and my Godox SL60W, or holding up my Sony FS700 with one of these clamps. But if you just have a smaller camera or a small light, a monitor, these clamps work great. Now, what if you do want to hold up these larger pieces of equipment? What if you do want to mount up a Godox light or a Sony FS700 to the ceiling? What do you do then? Well, you can always use a C-clamp. Now, C-clamps are crazy overpriced for what they are. So I decided to start learning how to weld myself. And that might sound a little overwhelming for a lot of people, and it certainly was for me as well, but it's actually not that complicated, and it's actually quite simple. There are plenty of really inexpensive welders that suit my needs just fine, and I'm sure they'll suit your needs. And if you look in the description down below, you'll see some welding equipment that is really affordable and a great starter kit if you're wanting to get into this craft. But to build these clamps, it's really simple. You're going to need an angle grinder to cut these rods into whatever length suits your needs best. Afterwards, you'll take your steel clamp and grind off the edges and the bumps and the inconsistencies so you have a nice flat surface to be able to work off of. Then clamp these two pieces together and weld them. I recommend using a stick welder because it's the cheapest way of starting and getting into welding, and it produces really great results. I'm really happy with these clamps. They do really well, and they only cost me $6.35 rather than $75 for a simple C-clamp with a really basic rod attached to it. And speaking of these rods, you can buy these 5/8 inch rods at a hardware store, which, I mean, that's our number 5 on this list. For about $15, depending on which hardware store you go to, you can buy a 5/8 inch rod, just like this one, but it will probably be longer than this. This is only like a 2-foot rod. You can buy them in like 8-foot or 10-foot lengths if you really want to. And the whole point is to replace these guys, which these don't cost that much, but they're still a lot more than this. I bought this for about $15 at a hardware store, and these can go anywhere from $40 to hundreds of dollars, depending on the length and depending on the accessories that you have with them. Now, this is steel and not aluminum, so this is a lot heavier and it is stronger, but it's not exactly the best solution if you're wanting to have a lightweight package with you. But every now and then, these really work out perfectly. You can build all kinds of different grids. You can hang lights from these rods. You can add diffusion to them and build these amazing pieces. Right now, that's actually how my microphone is being held in place and how this light is being held in place, because you can actually adjust the length and the size of these rods in place by using a simple grip head or a gobo head. And unlike my previous item, you don't really need to learn how to weld to be able to use a simple pin like this. You can really just go out and use these things. You just need to buy an angle grinder and cut it down to the size you want, and maybe, you know, use a file to kind of clean up the edges here so it's not as sharp. And then you're done. It's really that simple. Now, they don't have those fancy pins or they don't have those fancy threads on the edge of them, but you can always buy a baby 2/4-20 adapter. Those work really great. And most of the time, those threads are unnecessary and they kind of get in the way anyway. So I really recommend that people just go out and buy steel rods rather than spending so much money on these right here, which, I mean, these are really nice, but kind of unnecessary for how basic of a function these things serve. Whatever you think of DIY gear and DIY filmmaking, I really think that we've lost touch on this creativity that comes with building things for yourself. And yes, you can always go out and buy things that will kind of serve a purpose, but when you actually learn how to build things yourself and learn how to engineer and learn how to develop that creative part of your brain, it really unlocks so many more possibilities and so many more options. So I encourage you guys to try unlocking that creative part of your brain, unlocking that engineering part of your brain and learn and develop these skills. I was not very good at doing things like this before, but as I've been living here and as I've been building this studio, and when you start learning how to build things rather than just buying things, you really start to unlock a new creative part of your brain, and that really helps you as a filmmaker and helps you as a person to be prepared for whatever comes ahead of you in life. Anyway, guys, those are just some of my thoughts. Those are just some of the things that I think are really great and some of the pieces of gear that I'm most proud of building. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any suggestions, any ways that you would modify or change the things that I've mentioned on this list, or if you disagree with me in any way and you think that DIY filmmaking gear is thriving more than ever, go ahead and leave it down in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, ring that notification bell so you're getting those notifications, do all that jazz, and I will see you next time. Take care.